following video is not made for kids. Your discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TF Angie coming to you with what will hopefully be a successful review, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Transformers action figure that I am very thrilled to finally have in my collection, and similar to half of the Transformers figures that I've purchased this year. This figure is technically the first version of this Transformers character that I've added to my Transformers collection. Sorry for adjusting my camera there for a moment. But that's why I'm extra excited to have this figure in my Transformers collection, because as I have no prior action figure of this character, and it is the Transformers Legacy Deluxe Class Autobot Pointblank with his Targetmaster partner, Peacemaker. So Pointblank was one of the Autobot Targtmasters who was introduced to the Transformers franchise during the last year that the Generation 1 cartoon aired here in the United States, which was back in 1987. And again, as I said, and I apologize for repeating myself, but this is the first ever action figure of Pointblank that I've added to my Transformers collection. That's even by name too, so this is my first ever Pointblank action figure, so I'm super excited that we got Pointblank in the first year of the Legacy line, and I've already seen from a couple of reviews, but I can also tell seeing him standing here inside of his packaging, Pointblank is one of the tallest deluxe class figures to be released in the Legacy line. I believe he's half a head taller than the Wave 1 deluxe class Autobot Skids figure, which when I reviewed that figure I felt that it was a fairly decent sized deluxe figure. Pointblank, I believe he's almost as tall as the Voyager class Studio Series 86 Ironhide figure that I reviewed last week. So yeah, he's a very tall deluxe class Transformers figure. Even though I don't have any other action figures of Pointblank to do a size comparison with him, I do have another figure that he's intended to interact with, and I'll show that off when we get out of his box in a moment. But first, let's take a look at the box itself. So here's some artwork of Pointblank in his vehicle mode. You've got Peacemaker sitting there on top of him in the back, acting as a cannon. And right here to the side of the box, you've got some artwork. You got Pointblank, close-up of Pointblank's face. You've got the same artwork of him here in an action pose, charging into battle. And I believe, even though the artwork image is cut off, I believe in his right hand he is holding Peacemaker, and he's about to fire Peacemaker at some enemy Decepticons. I wish they wouldn't have cut that off on the artwork and kept it in. This side of the box, you got the poster image for the Autobot side of year 1 of the Legacy line. It's been revealed that next year in 2023, which will be year 2 of Transformers Legacy, the title of that line will be Transformers Legacy Evolution. So the Legacy year 1 figures can be titled Transformers Legacy OS or OG, Original Generation or Original Series. So that's pretty interesting that they're titling year 2 of Legacy, that instead of just continuing the Legacy line under its title, they're going to just call year 2 Legacy Evolution. If the Legacy line continues into a third year, it'll be a wonder what title that line will be. So coming out here at the back of the box, you've got your product photos. Down here on the bottom, you've got Peacemaker in his robot mode and his alt mode of Pointblank's laser gun. Transforms back and forth in 2 steps. And then for Pointblank himself, you got him in his robot mode. He's holding Peacemaker, and he transforms back and forth between robot mode and vehicle mode in 17 steps. Some Transformers fans and collectors have said that because Peacemaker is much more similar to the original Generation 1 Targetmasters, where pretty much the only articulation he has is moving his legs up and down at his hips, and no arm articulation. A lot of Transformers fans and collectors feel that the Targetmasters we're getting first with Peacemaker here partnered with Pointblank, and then the 2 Targetmasters that are going to be partnered with the Legacy Evolution Wave 1 Deluxe Class figure of Decepticon Needlenose. He has 2 Needlenose. It's been revealed is going to have 2 Targetmasters that are similar in design to Peacemaker. So some Transformers fans and collectors feel that these are a bit of a setback in terms of the amount of posing and articulated joints that can be given to Targetmaster Transformers, comparing Peacemaker with the Battlemasters that we got in the Transformers Siege and Transformers Earthrise lines back in 2019 and 2020, respectively. And I tend to agree with that having the only articulation be the hip joints due to it being a transformation joint to get a Peacemaker from a robot into Pointblank's laser gun, it does feel like a bit of a setback compared to the semi-fully articulated Targetmasters, aka Battlemasters, we got in the Siege and Earthrise lines. I can honestly see Hasbro and Takara doing that for G1 accuracy. But it's an example that, in the minds of most Transformers fans and collectors, it's an area of G1 accuracy that could have been avoided in favor of more modern day designs. And it's a similar experience with the fake jet cockpit on Legacy Leader Class Blitzwing's tank mode. I'm hoping to review Blitzwing later this week. If I can concentrate on getting my reviews finished. So yeah, that's basically Autobot Pointblank inside of his box with his Targetmaster partner Peacemaker. I'm really thrilled with how this came out. The one thing that is not entirely G1 accurate, and some hardcore G1 fans are pointing this out, is the direction that the windshield of Pointblank's vehicle mode is facing. The front of the windshield is here on the top, and the back of it is on the bottom here on his new Legacy Deluxe class figure, and on the Generation 1 Pointblank action figure. The way he transformed the cockpit basically was facing the opposite direction of what it is here on his Legacy figure. But for me, that's just a very minor nitpick that can be overlooked by the simple fact that we now have a modern-day figure of Pointblank having arrived at last. And so without further delay, let's get him out of his box and take a close look at Pointblank in his robot mode. Alright, so here are both Pointblank and his Targetmaster partner Peacemaker out of the packaging, and I'm really thrilled with how G1 accurate these figures look, especially Pointblank. I can't get over how my excitement at finally having a figure of him ever since the Titans Return line was launched back in 2016, and it was announced that in addition to the Headmasters, we were going to get modern-day figures of the Targetmasters. I was hoping that Pointblank, along with the other Autobot Targetmasters, Sure Shot, and Crosshairs, would be released in the Titans Return line, and when they weren't, I was very disappointed that the only Autobot Targetmasters we got were Hot Rod, Cup, and Blur. And the difference between the three of them and the other Targetmasters there, but first off, let's take a look at Peacemaker. And yeah, he is very Generation 1 accurate in the fact that the only articulation he has is moving his legs inward and outward at the hips, and that's primarily a transformation joint to get him into gun mode. One disappointment that I find with Peacemaker is that he's completely hollowed in the back, so he's pretty much a shell robot with all that hollowness back there, but I'm certain someone will create gap filler pieces for him to make him more solidly built. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Peacemaker. So to transform into gun mode, you flip the legs up over his torso and then flip the barrel of the laser gun down, and now he can become Pointblank's laser gun. So one thing that some Transformers fans and collectors are disappointed with Pointblank is the way his arms have been designed. The arms can only go forward that far, so even though the joint has the potential to bend 90 degrees forward, this sculpted piece here, this red piece on the lower arm, it hits the tires on the shoulder towers, so to get Pointblank to have a Peacemaker pointing straight forward, you do have to rotate his arm at the shoulder joint, so it is a tad disappointing to see that. Yeah, but I do enjoy how the design came out overall. And again, I'm just really thrilled to finally have an action figure of Pointblank in my Transformers collection. So for articulation, his head is on a ball joint, so it can look up and down ever so slightly. It can rotate left and right 360 degrees. The arms can rotate clockwise and counterclockwise at the shoulder 360 degrees. The arms can go outwards this far, and they can go in this far. The arms can go forward that far, and they can go backwards that far. Our swivel joint at the waist, you can get the arms out of the way. The legs can go out that far, so you can get Pointblank to do a splits. Legs can go backward that far, they can go forward that far. He does have swivel joints in the thighs, but you try and rotate it without holding onto his waist, then the waist joint will end up swiveling. Hinged knees, which can go really far back due to transformation, and he has ankle rockers, so you can get him into a wide-legged pose if you want. So a decent amount of articulation here on Legacy Pointblank. And for a size comparison with another Transformers figure, figure. Here is a Transformers figure he's designed to be on a team with, and it is Crosshairs, who was released in the Siege line. So with the release of Point Blank, we now have 2 of the 3 Autobot Targetmasters that were released in the Generation 1 line that have been given modern-day figures. Crosshairs is, of course, a straight-up repaint of Siege Ironhide with a head sculpt based on his animation model from the G1 cartoon series. And again, the Siege Ironhide figure, when it was released back in 2019, a lot of Transformers fans and collectors said that it was one of the taller deluxe class figures, and putting Crosshairs and Point Blank next to each other, Point Blank is half a head taller than Crosshairs. So yeah, Point Blank is possibly the tallest deluxe class figure that's been released in the Legacy line so far, so I'm really thrilled at how enormous Point Blank is. The third Autobot Targetmaster that still has not been given a modern figure is Sure Shot, with his Targetmaster Spoil Sport. Crosshair's Targetmaster partner was released under a different name in the Amazon exclusive multi-pack with G2 Siege Sideswipe and Siege Slam Dance. And I do not have Crosshair's Targetmaster partner out. I apologize for that, but yeah, 2 of the 3 Autobot Targetmasters have now been given modern-day figures, and so hopefully Sure Shot will be released next year in Legacy Evolution so we can finally complete the trio of Autobot Targetmasters. Technically, there's a total of 8 Autobot Targetmasters that were introduced in the Generation 1 line between both Hasbro and Takara Tomy. But of those 8 Autobot Targetmasters, there were only 3 of the 8 Autobot Targetmasters released that were entirely brand new characters and were available in both the United States and in Japan. And those 3 figures, 2 of them I have here were Crosshairs and Point Blank. The third one was Sure Shot. The other 5 Autobot Targetmasters were released in one country, but not both Japan and the US. We got Hot Rod, Odd Cup, and Blur, who were reimagined as Targetmasters by Hasbro. And then we got 2 other brand new Targetmasters in Japan by Takara Tomy, which were Stepper, aka Ricochet, and also Artfire. They were repaints of Generation 1 Jazz and Inferno with 5mm ports to allow the Targetmaster or robots to interact with them. And we got modern day figures of Ricochet and Artfire in the Generation Selects line, and then of course we got Cup, Blur, and Hot Rod twice in the Titans Return line and in the Studio Series 86 line. So it's, for me personally, it's a little disappointing that out of the 8 Targetmasters that Point Blank and Sure Shot are the last 2 of the 8 that we've gotten, and also that Crosshairs, instead of designing an entirely brand new figure for him, Hasbro and Takara Tomy decided to just slap a G1 Crosshairs head sculpt on the Siege Ironhide mold and called it a day. There are some upgrade kits that give Crosshairs wheels that are much larger and bigger and make his vehicle mode more accurate to his G1 figure. I've never gotten any of the upgrade kits for Siege Crosshairs because I really haven't been motivated to do so. So, fingers crossed that we get Sure Shot in the near future to complete the trio of original Autobot Targetmasters who were released globally back in the Generation 1 line. But enough about the lack of Sure Shot for now. Let's focus here on Point Blank. So let's get him transformed into his vehicle mode and wrap up the review. Alright, and here is Point Blank transformed into his vehicle mode of a Cybertronian car. And it is very faithful to his Generation 1 figure, but admittedly it does have a lot more sculpted detailing, like the side of the car having an elevated step to get up to the cockpit section. The windshield can open up ever so slightly, but only that much before it starts to hit the front piece of the windshield here. But I do enjoy how accurate it is to the way the Generation 1 figure of Point Blank ended up transforming. The wheels do roll very nicely. There isn't much clearance here. Because of the racing spoiler on his back, Point Blank is supposed to be a type of racing car, so he's designed to only drive on a flat surface. But one nice thing about Point Blank is that all 4 of his wheels are pinned into him. They're not pegged on by mushroom pegs, so there is no fear of them breaking off anytime soon, so I'm really excited to see that happen. That wheels on Transformers figures used to almost always be universally pinned or screwed on into place. So it's nice to see that here on Point Blank. I really love that throwback to how old school Transformers figures were designed. And I hope that pinned-on wheels are brought back because clip-on wheels have a tendency to break if handled roughly. At least so. I really hope that we see more pinned wheel car Transformers in the future. One thing to note about Peacemaker: the only proper way to store him is here on the back. There's two sculpted little rectangular tabs located right there on Peacemaker, and they're designed to fit into these rectangular slots here on Point Blank's racing spoiler. Unfortunately, the ones on the outside you can't really plug Peacemaker into because the 5mm peg that he has gets in the way. But the ones in the middle, because they're evenly spaced out, you can, if you desire, you can have Point Blank facing both directions. You can have him facing backwards and make it look like Point Blank has a rocket booster there on the back middle of him, or the official storage or spot is having a Peacemaker pointing forward, and it looks like Point Blank has a cannon on top of him. Admittedly, one drawback to Peacemaker sitting here on the back middle section of Point Blank is that on the original Generation 1 action figure, Point Blank had an extra V-shaped racing spoiler here on the back middle of his vehicle mode, and that detached and became the standard laser gun, and that he had if you didn't want Peacemaker to be Point Blank's laser gun all the time. Unfortunately, the racing spoiler missing, it means that Legacy Point Blank has one less accessory piece compared to his Generation 1 action figure, but I'm certain that within the next few months we will start to see upgrade kits available on eBay and other websites where the V-shaped powder blue racing spoiler that the original Generation 1 Point Blank figure had will be designed for the Legacy Point Blank figure here. Hopefully if someone invents an upgrade kit that gives Point Blank his racing spoiler, they'll design an upgrade kit that will allow Peacemaker to sit here on the front, because on the Generation 1 Point Blank action figure, this technically is the spot where Peacemaker would attach, was almost on the center of the roof. So hopefully someone will design an upgrade kit that not only gives Point Blank his racing spoiler, but creates another storage spot for Peacemaker as well. The only other storage places to put Peacemaker on are the 5mm ports on either side of Point Blank, and unfortunately it's just a cannon sitting on the side of a car, so it's not that great of a storage place. I used to have Peacemaker there. But overall, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I just enjoy how Point Blank came out, and he just might be one of my favorite deluxe class figures from the Legacy line. I'm just speechless that I finally have an action figure of Point Blank in my Transformers collection. And for one last size comparison, again, here is Legacy Point Blank next to Siege Crosshairs. Again, they are very nice. Very nice seeing the two of them together. Hopefully next year, maybe I'll be holding a third deluxe class action figure of a modern day figure of Sure Shot, and finally have all of the Autobot Targtmasters completed. Again, I was hoping we would have gotten figures of these guys when the Titans Return line was released back in 2016, because we got all of the Decepticon Targetmasters in the Titans Return line: Trigger Happy, Misfire, and Slug Slinger. So it was very disappointing that Point Blank, Crosshairs, and Sure Shot weren't released to act as Autobot rivals to the Decepticon Targetmasters in the Titans Return line. So I'm just overjoyed to finally have a modern day figure of Point Blank, and he is really massive. Granted, because he transforms into a Cybertronian truck, Crosshairs is a taller deluxe class figure, but looking at them from different angles, Point Blank is much wider, and I believe they are the exact same length. Point Blank, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, even if you had a Peacemaker removed, Point Blank is, I want to say, 1mm longer than Crosshairs due to the tips of his racing spoiler going past Crosshairs' back bumper when you line them up from the frontmost to backmost points. So, Point Blank is one of the larger size deluxe class Transformers figures, and the fact that his laser gun is his partner Peacemaker Peacemaker. When you buy Legacy Point Blank, you're technically getting 2 Transformers characters and action figures for the price of 1 deluxe class figure. So, for the proverbial question, do I recommend you get Legacy Point Blank and add him to your Transformers collection? I absolutely do. You cannot go wrong having Point Blank in your Transformers collection. Granted, the Autobot Targtmasters aren't the most popular Transformers characters, and I believe that's one of the reasons why Point Blank was the last of the Legacy Wave 3 Deluxe class figures that to be sold out at my local Target store, was because younger Transformers fans and collectors don't have much of an idea of who Point Blank is. But for older Transformers fans and collectors, Point Blank is a must-have, especially if you have the Siege Crosshairs figure that was released in 2019. So fingers crossed that we get Sure Shot in the near future to complete the trio of Autobot Targetmasters. Thank you guys all so much. This has been the TFN Geek. This has been my review of Transformers Legacy Deluxe Class Autobot Point Blank with Autobot Peacemaker. One last thing I will mention before I end off the video is that when Point Blank was first announced, Hasbro announced that he might be released under the new copyrighted name of Autobot Blanker, and I'm really thrilled that Hasbro managed to, in time for the figure's release, to get a registered trademark on Point Blank's original Generation 1 name. So, once again, he is and always will be, hopefully, known as Point Blank, and he will not have to go through a name change. So yeah, thank you Hasbro for getting a new registered trademark on Point Blank's next Generation 1 name, even if it means that the word Autobot has to be printed in front of it. I prefer his original Generation 1 name of Point Blank over the rumored new registered trademark name of Autobot Blanker. So thank you guys all so much once again, and until next time, you guys, stay safe, stay healthy, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.